Thank you for joining us today at the Federal Laboratory Consortium for Technology Transfer Tools and Resources webinar featuring FLC Chair John Dement and Program Director Marc Snyderman. The tools and resources you'll learn about today are each designed to facilitate your organization's commercialization efforts, and our expert speakers are eager to share how these FLC tools can help you during the T2 process. Before we begin, please take some time to review the resource list, which includes the FLC and LabTech in Your Life brochure. Each resource is also available on the FLC website. Please feel free to submit questions in the Q&A box. The speakers will answer questions at the end of the webinar. Please note that if you lose sound, it may be best to refresh your browser. FLC Chair John Dement will begin with an introduction to the FLC and technology transfer. John, please begin when you are ready.
Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us. And I don't know everybody that's on the line and they're in person at Doolittle Institute, but we just thank you for the opportunity. I want to welcome or to thank Carolyn there at Doolittle Institute and Bill Locks at the Air Force Research Lab Munitions Directorate, and just appreciate their giving us this opportunity to kind of tell you a little bit about tech transfer, federal tech transfer, and the FLC. Kind of quick an agenda this morning is this. First, I'm going to give you kind of an overview of tech transfer and FLC as briefly as humanly possible, so that Marc Snyderman can tell you more about the tools that is probably a little bit more of interest because it's where it gets real for you. It's where you can actually engage and use the tool sets that FLC has made available. And let's see what get the slide deck going here. I'm probably going to ask Sarah if she can help me get these slides up. I apologize. It's the first time I've used this tool. Well, I will start as we figure that part out. And give you that quick overview. Marc's going to talk about FLC Business and LabTech in your life. And then we're going to have as much time as possible for questions and answers. So for those of you there in person at Doolittle Institute, Scott Swanson will be helping there. And then then we'll take the online questions as well. I'm just going to apologize to you because I'm not making the slides appear for you there. So bear with me a minute here as I try to figure out the tool. Sarah's going to operate remotely for me here. And so I'm going to assume we're on the slide that actually says, what is the FLC? And she will fix my mistakes here. So the FLC, just kind of a big picture, it's really representation. It's a board of the 300-plus federal labs. And that's about how many labs are out there. And it really comes down to how do you count them. And then there's about 25 agencies that we work with and, of course, who kind of own the labs. And that really makes up kind of the main constituents of the FLC. And then when you start talking about what is tech transfer, and Sarah, I'm on that next slide that that has the video on there. And simply put, tech transfer is the sharing of knowledge and capabilities. And from a federal aspect, what the legislation actually says, it's to ensure the full use of the nation's federal investment in R&D and to transfer federally owned or originated tech to state and local government and to the private sector. And what you'll see in your resource side is literally some links to some YouTube videos. And we've actually got a YouTube channel that's got these incredible videos that makes tech transfer fairly simple to understand. And it's one of those that's nice and easy to use those in your own venues. whether you're a tech transfer organization or whether you're one of the partnership intermediaries, or you're just trying to understand what this means, these YouTube videos that we've developed are there at your disposal. And so that they become a great resource. It's one of those things where a lot of times when we say tech transfer, that's terminology that most of the world doesn't seem to get very well. And so us being able to put it into other terms that the public sector can understand or private sector is very useful. Hey, I think I got my slide deck up. I think I'm in business. So that's that slide. We move to the next one. This is really what it comes down to what the FLC's mission is, and this is where it gets kind of, again, a little bit more tangible. The role of the FLC is really defined in 11 different legislative line items. But to boil it down to make it simple, it's really about promoting tech transfer, educating, and facilitating. And our primary clients, again, are the federal labs, helping them, encouraging them, pointing people to the labs to help them in their tech transfer mission. And typically, not always, but typically that means how do we help them grow their number of transactions? And there's lots of ways to measure transactions, but our goal and our role is to help them be more accessible and more available by the private sector, those outside the fence line, to help them in their missions. So that's what we intend to do. Now, just to give you some examples of where tech transfer kind of impacts you now, here's 3 pretty common examples. And the first one are these stents put out by Boston Scientific, and I just did a quick web search right before this started, and they're still selling these platinum chromium stents. And as you know, these are pretty prevalent in our society, and thank goodness, because they do a great benefit to for us older folks like me on things that we're probably going to need. So this is a great one. The next one is from NASA, and it's the invisible braces. The next one is one that's really prevalent in our society. It really came out of DARPA, but it's Siri. And so having that automated intelligence, this is one of those first tools, obviously, for this. And this is where tech transfer from federal labs have become very widespread in our lives. So this is where it kind of hits real. And that kind of helps paint a picture of the potential. And obviously these are big home run cases, but these are definitely things that are out there. And Marc's going to show you a new tool that we have out there called LabTech in your life, which allows you to go through certain environments, in this case a home, and you can actually see where federal lab innovation is actually in the marketplace and impacting your life every day at home. On the next slide, I want to give you some sense of the magnitude of federal tech transfer that's going on. And the trend, you can see that the date is 2014. That's the last date I pulled this from, and of course there's a lag in the date. But you can see the trend over the last 10 to 12 years. It's up and to the right. And for CRADAs, which are cooperative research and development agreements, we do over 3,500 per year. And that number has grown since this one. It's like I said, that the trend has been up and to the right. But 3,500 transactions from 300 plus labs is what we're doing, kind of as a gross magnitude to kind of try to get a quantified view of it. Issued patents continues to go up as well. It's around 2,000 per year. Licenses, fairly flat, about 500 per year is what's new licenses, patent licenses per year. And I personally think that's just a lagging indicator that my guess is when we see 15, 16, and 17 data, we will see those starting to inch up as well. So that's just kind of the trend. And the takeaway there is there's a lot of transactions from the labs with the private sector. What I want to do next, skip a slide and go to this one, which is our evolving story of economic impact. And this is a hard one because the government doesn't always think about how do we best measure economic impact. And so what I have here is a very tangible one out of the Department of Defense. And this is where they looked at only one of the agreement types. And this is the patent licenses agreement. And this is where we give the right to make, use, or sell an invention, the claims of an invention, a patent, to somebody to go do something with. And from 663 licenses being tracked over about a 10-year period, you can see there's some fairly significant impact, about almost $50 billion of economic impact. $3.5 billion or so back to the DoD, but $20 billion in new services and new products. And you can see the jobs and the salaries. So from just 663 DoD licenses, you kind of see this huge impact. And now recall the previous slide where we have 500 new licenses per year. And so this is just a small snapshot, and yet we get these huge magnitude. And CRADAs typically, on average, when you look at the economic impact, they're slightly less than the licensing agreement, but there's 7 times more of them. So you see a huge impact. There's a story there that we don't necessarily tell well, but this is a snapshot that says out of 663 patent licenses, there's $50 billion of impact. I think that's pretty significant. And that a lot of times becomes that rationale of why are we doing this? Because when you look at one individual lab, and maybe it's your local lab, you don't feel like you're making that impact, but it kind of adds up as we start going. And I don't want you to lose hope and know that you don't have to just look at your local lab. You can look across the national labs, all 300 plus, and see what's there and bring it to your lab or bring it to your region and even work with the local lab, but you're not limited to what you have geographically close. You really want to look across the whole network. And where that really gets really cool is when you start looking at a certain technology. And it turns out there's probably a half a dozen different federal agencies working in that technology space. And so you can actually pull from across those different places and actually license as a bundle, or if you're on the federal government side, potentially do technology scouting of what else the government is investing in and what's available to you. And so you can actually collaborate within the government, or the government can collaborate with the private sector. So that's kind of a powerful thing that Marc will bring out when we start looking at FLC Business. So why is tech transfer so important? Well, one of the biggest pushes that came out of the tech transfer legislation was trying to improve the economic well-being in the United States and truly a global economy. And so the economy has a huge piece of it, but the societal gains are huge. And, you know, those 3 examples I gave you a minute ago with this heart stents, invisible braces, and even Siri, it kind of speaks right in line with that society and everyday life. And, of course, the business case that drives the economy out of that's fairly huge as well. So that's why tech transfer is so important. Now, this next slide is on an Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA. They did a collaboration in Puerto Rico after the last hurricane. And you kind of see it there. It really, they developed an emergency water system, and they built some prototypes. And once the hurricane hit, they figured this was a good example to take it there. And so they deployed some of these units, and they were providing up to 10,000 gallons of drinking water per day. And again, this video is on our YouTube channel, and it's one of those, again, that can help communicate the potential to either your own organization or to just help demonstrate what tech transfer looks like. And the next slide is on the common technology transfer mechanisms and means. And I'm not going to belabor this. You can go on our resource site and go to our website and see and actually have a database of different types of agreements and sort by which ones do each agency has. And so you can get help there. Plus, for those of you in and around the Doolittle Institute, obviously you can reach out to Scott and Bill for more, direct engagement there on which agreements may make the most sense. And I would tell you, as a practicing tech transfer guy from a couple of years ago, you don't start with what agreements do I have. You start with what do you want to do, and then we can best package which agreements make the most sense for you. And that's always a hard one, because once we hear that there's an agreement out there, we want to go make use of it. But the key thing is to go, what are we trying to do? What impact are we trying to have? So who carries out the FLC's mission? Well, the FLC is this quasi-governmental entity. It's not government, yet it's really composed of government people. And the main thing to think about there's an executive board, which I'm the chair, and then there's representatives that are elected or appointed on the board, and there's about 24, 25 of the executive board. And where this starts to get real for most of the people on the watching this presentation is through the regions. And your local regional coordinator is Michael American, and he sits in Charleston, South Carolina, and he's the regional coordinator. He's a Navy guy. And your deputy regional coordinator is Kevin Brand. He's out of Atlanta with the Center for Disease Control. And these are the two gentlemen who kind of represent the FLC locally. And they're guys that you would engage to do local type presentations and events. And they do an annual meeting each year. And last year it was down in Florida in Orlando. They will have one again next fall as well. So if that's something that you want to go and engage the tech transfer community in the Southeast, then that becomes a great place to go do that. As we start to move into more of the tool sets and the platforms that we use, and that's how we kind of carry out the mission. The thing I want you to see here is this idea that we do this promoting, facilitating, and educating. They become the main rallying cries of how we think about what we go do in support of labs doing more tech transfer. And we have a couple key platforms that really are the things that people value the most and that we really try to deliver our promoting and education and facilitation through. And a couple of them that won't be talked about so much, but are the website. If you go to federallabs.org, you will pretty much see everything that we have there. Everything from success stories to news reports on what's going on in the tech transfer legislative world to best practices and even the awards. And the awards become another key one that the labs greatly values, the award program. And I tell you from another perspective, the awards are great on kind of seeing how tech transfer happens and some of those best practices. And then education and training becomes one of the other key platforms that we use. And our biggest training happens at our national meeting, which is in April. And there'll be a slide a little bit later, but our national meeting this year is in April down in Orlando. And that becomes a place where day one is all about training. And there's everything from beginners to intermediate to advanced levels there. Now, the next two big platforms that we have are FLC Business and LabTech in Your Life. And we're going to jump over several of my slides to give Marc the time to be able to go through that so that we can get you out of here at a hard stop point at 11 Eastern Standard Time. So I'm going to advance the slide deck, and these slides will be available to you. So if you want to go back and look at them and then decide you have some questions, and you can reach out to me or Marc or even your local folks there at Doolittle. And then you can pick up from there. And Marc, I'm trying to hand off to you and just waiting, I think, for it to catch up here. So bear with me as I advance there. Like I'm getting stuck there. And Marc and Sarah, if you're able to take over controls and get Marc where he needs to be, that would probably be very helpful.
Yeah, hey, John, it's Marc. I think you just clicked ahead, so I'm trying to make sure it goes to the right slide. I don't want to, too many of us touch it at the same time, it's going to make a mess.
I'm attempting to go to slide 18 and pushing there. And just as we try to get this worked out, if you have any questions and you're on remotely, please use the tool to ask questions there, and we will at the end try to answer those. And those that we don't get to, we'll try to follow up even offline. Having the tool kind of seize up on me here a little bit, so bear with me.
Yeah, while we're waiting for slides to sort of catch up to us because we're trying to jump ahead, I'm Marc Snyderman. I'm the program director for the FLC. So I work at the support contractor. We provide all the baseline support that you see. So basically the executive board sets all the strategy, and we as the contractor provide the services to move the FLC forward. So I think one thing we should talk a lot about is everything you see and you're going to see, hopefully very soon, is on our website. And John gave you the URL for that's federallab.org, and that's a critical component for what we do. We try to deliver as much as we can through the website. That's really our best place to go see what we do and how we do things. We're trying to show you some slides today on the tools and services that we have that are available for you. We've added a whole lot of new products in the past, let's say, 2 to 3 years, some of them evolving on a daily basis as we continue to try to give you the best possible access to the federal laboratory resources. We do have a problem right now, a technical issue with the slides sort of feel like they're stuck, and I'm not really sure why that is. I've not seen the tool do this. This is just for your information. This is not a tool we built. We bought this one. So this is not an FLC tool, so don't have this reflect on the FLC's ability to provide you good tools and services. All right, we're going to try to call the emergency number while we're online here. Hopefully we can get this resolved quickly. I'll keep trying to fill some time for you and give you some information. So there's 2 main tools that we've built in the past 3 years that we think are highly effective for technology transfer. John mentioned both of them briefly. So the first one is the newest of the 2 tools, and it's really much more for if we break down what the FLC does, it's really this promote, educate, and facilitate concepts. And the website is structured so that you could basically follow those 3 concepts through everything that we do. That's how the menus are set up. That's how everything we have is set up and established so that you can follow along on the website. For promotion and education, we have this new tool called LabTech in Your Life. And essentially what LabTech in Your Life is a 3D virtual rendering of a house. It's an actual house that we shot. We did a video shoot at with 360 video. And we have hotspots throughout the house which display technologies that came out of the federal labs. So everything from computer mouse to energy efficient LED bulbs. So when you go through the house, you can actually 360 tour the house. So it's got cool tech to it. It's nice feel, and it's a 360 rendering. We actually have the ability to do augmented virtual reality on it as well with Google Glass. So if you come to the national meeting, we're planning on having a Google Glass session where you can actually come in and take a tour of the house using the glasses. It'll be really cool, fun stuff to do. But each item is a success story that one of the labs has had. So we're always looking for, and we're actually at the call out right now for our next shoot. So we're looking for more technology to add to the environments. We're going to, not just stop here at a house. The idea is to extend past the house and move to maybe a hospital or maybe a manufacturing facility, something along those lines. So it looks like On24 is handling the uploading a new deck. So hopefully that'll clear up the issue and you won't just hear me speaking and you can see my slides. But I'll keep going in the interest of time. I'll give you some of the highlights of, a couple items that are in the LabTech in Your Life house. I think I said a computer mouse, which was a Department of Defense, DARPA developed technology. So something that's in everybody's house, almost everybody's house, is a computer mouse, something we use every day. So it really what the product does is it makes technology transfer very tangible. Not from the mechanism standpoint, as John said. The mechanism is really a legal agreement between the parties. It's not the actual transfer, right? The transfer is that technology got out of the government and was collaborated on with industry. So we provide ability to show how that is impacting the world, which is an educational piece, and it also facilitates more tech transfer. So that's really the goal of the product. And we look forward to hearing more from you guys and from others on how we can improve the product. And it moves along to showing success stories as well. We have a whole gallery of success stories. I think it's one of the slides we got skipped over. But we have, hundreds of success stories from throughout the federal government. And these are great for, the labs to show to their lab directors and higher-ups. They're great to show to Congress and the agencies as to why technology transfer is so important, but also showing how does it really work and what does it do and how does it and what's the economic benefit it's developed, throughout the country. So the other product we have, and without slides, it's going to be a little difficult for you to follow along. But if you're on a web browser, you may just want to jump ahead and go out to federallabs.org and go to FLC Business yourself, or you can go to flcbusiness.com, and it'll take you right there. I'll probably do that myself and see if I can sort of guide you along. So when you get to the home screen for FLC Business while we're waiting for the slides, you'll see it's sort of what we've built here is what we call a one-stop shop for U.S. lab information. So we're pulling data from across all the federal labs. We're not pulling data just from DoD, just from DOE, from specific agencies. We're across everyone. We have, and we know it is. It's the largest compendium of data currently existing about the federal labs. Now, is it everything? No, it's not currently everything. But we are looking and working on a daily basis to increase the reach and ensure that the data is the greatest data that we can have available. So where do we get the data? I guess we'll start there. Well, let me start with what is the data. The data runs from everything from general information about a lab, which we have multiple pieces, descriptions of the lab, the address of the lab, some technology areas that the labs focus in, and then we have available technologies, which is really the key for the FLC Business, and we'll come back to that. We also contain information on funding, programs, facilities, equipment, and this is information that has never been gathered and placed into a database in one time before, right? So imagine that you need a furnace. You're an industry partner. You're looking for a furnace to melt titanium, and you need to know where to go. You have a process you're working on, and this is actually a use case that I've done myself for a program that I run that actually melts titanium. So we were looking for a furnace that we could use to try to scale up without spending tons of money on a new furnace, and trying to find where in the federal labs could we possibly melt some metal. And found that Oak Ridge had a set of materials that we could use, and went there and was able to rent furnace time and work out with them a deal, collaborate with them, and it was a huge advantage to our company, in that we were able to get access to technology that we wouldn't be able to access without spending hundreds of thousands, and instead we were spent tens of thousands. So there's huge advantage to knowing what equipment could exist in the realm of the federal labs and how to access it. So the database really is structured in a way to help the industry partners find what's available in the federal labs, not only from the equipment and facilities, but really just expertise. So expertise is just, huge, and, there's such a vast, looks like my slides are live now, so we're on, you're looking at a tools of the trade slide. I'll just sort of try to jump back through and walk you through where we were. Sorry for the digression. So, I'll show you a little. We'll jump back to LabTech in Your Life for a minute, just to show you sort of what it looks like. There's sort of a screen grab and some information on what we have. So just from the virtual environment that it is, it shows you we have current agencies and number of technologies listed at the bottom of the slide, showing you who's currently represented in the LabTech in Your Life forum, and it's NASA has about 3, DoD Department of Commerce, USDA, DOE. So you can see it's really across agencies that we're supporting and promoting their technology that's been transferred out. So I think this is it's a good representation, and I encourage you to go to the site and go to LabTech in Your Life and play around. The cool thing is that we've actually seen about 10 minutes of viewership, which means typically when people go on a website, they stay for maybe 45 seconds, a minute. They bounce around and then they bounce back out. And video obviously has better retention rates, so we see people staying for maybe a minute or minute and a half, 2 minutes. But when we go to the LabTech in Your Life, our average viewership has been almost 10 minutes, which is pretty incredible that we're getting people to sit and actually go through the entire experience. So it's a really powerful product. I just want to remind you, if you're not seeing the slides, you may want to refresh your browser, and they should show up now. You should be seeing a slide that says LabTech at home, the first virtual environment of LabTech in Your Life. So one of the things I was talking about before was sort of the data structure for FLC Business. We're going to pop over and sort of talk through FLC Business now, because it really is the flagship product that we wanted to present to you today. And hopefully my rambling made a little bit of sense to you, and when you see it now, it should clarify it a bit when you can start to see some of these slides. So,
hey, Mark, John, let me jump in. People are putting notes up that they're not able to, the slides are not showing.
I think if you refresh your browser, they should show. We'll give people maybe about 30 seconds to do that. If you don't know how to refresh it, that little arrow, that little circular arrow next, next to the URL on your browser. And hopefully that clarified it for some people. So when you look at the data structure, you should be seeing a slide right now that says FLC data structure, and there's sort of a outline of data. And what you can see is that we have, various pieces of data that we're trying to collect, and we're structuring data across that was previously unstructured on the web, right? So we can actually use a tool, and this is how we get our data, right? So this is important for the labs that are on the call. We get data by crawling current websites. So even if a website doesn't have a database and it has information about the lab up, we can crawl across that website using a web scraping tool and pull that data back and put it into a structured database. So all the data that we hold is not unstructured, it's structured. So what does that mean to labs, to agencies, to users, to industry? It means we can create an API, a programming interface, to call for that data, right? So all the data we have is available and usable and can be pulled back and searched and do whatever anybody's heart's desires with it, right? So if you want to lay some artificial intelligence over it, you could do that. What we do is we provide a global search engine over all the data that's very, very robust, and what I could say is it's over-inclusive as opposed to not under-inclusive, so you're getting larger swaths of data to go through as opposed to very finite. And we'll look at a little bit about the search itself, now that we have the slides up. So not only do we web scrape and crawl for data across the web on a weekly basis, labs give us data directly, and we also get data that we manually input here at the Management Support Office contract. The other way we'd love to get data is if any labs have their own databases, and we could actually pull API programming back from an API back from that, so that we don't have to actually scrape for data. We house that data in the cloud in a warehouse, and we make that data available on the website and through API programming. So I was trying to give you some stats. I didn't know I couldn't remember them offhand, but this is the stats on the amount of data that currently exists, data records. So we have almost 14,000 available technologies. There's 376 labs currently in here, over 2,600 facilities, 250 separate pieces of equipment that are listed. Obviously, these numbers don't represent all of the data. We know this, and it's one of the reasons why we have these calls and we do these webinars and we call out to the labs, trying to encourage participation, because when you see the power of the data all in one place, it becomes evident that, we need all of this in one place. And the FLC can and is, the best place to store this data at this point. There's also, if you go on the website, there's a nice video of FLC Business as a search engine that, sort of talks about how we do things. So one of the things we've been doing a lot of, and John mentioned, is our YouTube channel. So we've been developing a series of videos recently within the past, 2 years that show why tech transfer is so important, how does it work, how does FLC Business help you, and then now we're getting into showing some of the effects of, technology transfer in the marketplace. So John mentioned the EPA video about water sense and their work in Puerto Rico after the hurricanes. Really impactful piece that we put together. And we recently did another video with Volpe and the city of Boston showing truck side guards as a state and local government collaboration. And that's, again, another really powerful video piece that you can use for showing the effects of tech transfer. So this, up on your screen, hopefully, is our slide about easy to find data. I think we're having some issues on me advancing the slides. I'm not sure what slide people are on at this point. You should be seeing easy to find laboratory data, and that's what's showing live. There should be, a screenshot of FLC Business. So we're looking at the different. You see a lot of colors down the side, and this is purposeful, right? Not just to make it, more enjoyable and look aesthetically pleasing. The colors actually have a lot of meaning within FLC Business, right? So when you look at anything, when you search for data, right? So there's a search bar. So let's just say you searched titanium. We'll stay with my example from earlier. You can actually get data on the laboratories that have that in their profile, the facilities, the available technologies in that area, equipment, and each has its own icon as well as color to make it easy for you to understand and see what data is coming back from the search engine, right? And the cool thing is these are all filters. So they're actually clickable filters. So if you searched across everything, all the data, and you got back, results like this where you see, well, there's only 18 results, but if you got back 150 results and you wanted to narrow further, and all you really wanted to look for was who has equipment that's related to to what I said. So if you're looking for a furnace, you don't want to see all the available text that has to do with furnaces. You only want to see who has actual equipment. You can actually unclick each item by itself on the website, and it will take those results out of your query automatically. And you can pop them back in or place them back or take them out. So it's hopefully very user-friendly in that way, and makes your searching very easy and easy to see what kind of data you're looking at from a quick glance. So we have, essentially this is what you're looking at now is the home page for FLC Business. So it's the general search term, and we also have a lab directory. The lab directory is really a nice added feature. So it's all the labs that are included from A to Z. You just click on a letter, and it pops up a list of labs with those letters, or you can just search for it if you prefer. And you can click through to the lab and see all the technology they have, all the programs they have, everything related to that laboratory under one umbrella. And that laboratory data is editable by the laboratory itself or by us as the MSO for the laboratory if they want us to make updates, make changes. And all that data is readily changeable on the fly. And it's all behind password protected, logins and all that kind of good stuff. So the basic search is really just, a generic search engine, not Boolean, just plain text searching, and you have filtering capabilities. So like I just mentioned, all those colored filters that each represents different categories of data, you can search within those anytime you want, and click on or click off whichever one you would like to use. And then we have advanced filtering, right? So if you clicked on the advanced button, all these boxes pop up for you, which gives you the ability to really refine your search down further, because you can search by agency, you can search by tech disciplines, and we have a standardized set of tech disciplines we've laid across the data. Now, a difficult thing to do when you're talking about federal labs that run from agriculture to space exploration, but we gave a pretty genericized and vetted and list of technology disciplines that help. It just helps capture and cull down data at a top level for a user. And then you could also search by state, by owner, like owner of the technology, security. So we actually have a classification that was asked for by OSTP for security versus, for the classified labs versus non-classified. And then, we can even search for business categories. So this is a display of a search for you. I think this is actually the search for titanium. And you'll see that, we get back certain available technologies, but no laboratories. And we say, well, hey, that doesn't seem right, because there are certainly laboratories that work with titanium. I know that they do. I know Oak Ridge works with it. I know some other labs, maybe Argonne, work with titanium as well. But titanium is not a technology area that would show up in the profile of the lab. It's an actual material, right? So you have to search for materials, right? So if you search for materials, now you'll get 127 labs that work in materials and materials science. So searching is an art form, and we don't have a Google search engine here. That's thousands of not thousands, but 20 years in the making, right? Of hundreds of thousands of lines of code and algorithms that developed what Google is. So a lot of people expect to see Google type results when you search. This isn't a Google search engine. It is a Solar search engine. It's very broad and expansive, and it gives you more results than less. And that's what I was trying to stress before. It is an over-inclusive search engine, so it doesn't give you necessarily exactly the answer, right? Google tries to guess what you want, and it knows what you're trying to do, and it will give you ranked results based on that. We're giving you all the data back in terms of relevancy. It is ranked from top to bottom, highest ranking first, but it is not going to cut data off or suggest your answer for you. The other thing we can see is we have a quick view possibility. So if you get to your search result, you just want to look and say, oh, who's the contact? You can immediately find that, or you can actually click through and take a look at the entire record. So before I told you about each laboratory having its own, sort of portal, this is a Brookhaven National Laboratories portal. So it shows all the different, options and categories of data that you can look at just by going to Brookhaven's, profile page. So what have we done recently? So recently we've really upgraded the site. And these items all came live at the end of last year. And obviously we're always looking for new data. One, just to highlight a new feature we're working on for the laboratories. Currently, there was a change in the statutory requirements for notices to license for publication of notice to license exclusive licenses. That used to have to go through the CFR, and it was a long, arduous process for the labs. We're making that available that'll be available within the next quarter on the FLC Business site directly, where available tech, you can just click through it and publish a notice to intent to license there, and we can get subscribers and people can follow technology, and it'll follow and it'll actually comply with the statutory obligation. So we're always trying to look for tools and services to help the labs that'll make their lives easier. So some of the things we did recently to FLC 3.0, obviously we refined some of the search categories. We added a chat service. So if any of you go on the FLC website, there's actually a chat function that pops up, so you can instantaneously chat with one of our representatives, and they will help you find what you're looking for. You can save your searches now, which is a great feature. So if you want to go back and take a look at searches later on, and you can even print and share what you found. So one feature we've had for years that supports the FLC is the technology locator service, and the chat function really helps get you here. So we didn't just automate the service and provide FLC Business. FLC Business is a tool that helps individuals find what they're looking for, and if you can't find it, we will help you, and we will provide a locator service to help find what you're looking for and help you make that match and connect you with the lab itself. So more tools that we've put in over time are, we call it the T2 Success Track. So for a industry partner looking to figure out how tech transfer works and how an innovator can work with the labs, it's sort of a mini success track as to what they need to do to work with the lab. That's all sort of educational material we're providing. So like I said before, we're promoting, facilitating, and educating. And here we're educating, but also facilitating. We have what's called the Teague Playbook, which is you can download case studies on successful tech transfer plays. So this is helpful for the laboratories as well as industry partners looking for, has this been done before? How do you do this? What types of examples exist? So not only do we have success stories, but we have these, this tech transfer playbook, which has been, a nice feature for partners to take a look at. And, sort of our hallmark event of the year is the FLC National Meeting. It's in Orlando this year, April 23 to 25. It's a 3-day event. It's jam-packed, and it is, sort of the hallmark event for tech transfer professionals on the federal side. We love having everybody show up, and there's one whole day of education and training that, has really, really been, greatly attended in the past few years. Our numbers have skyrocketed. The total attendance is usually in the 400 to 500 range. Obviously, we're looking for even better in Orlando. It's got a great venue for a conference. So we're looking forward to the event. There's great networking opportunities, continuing education opportunities, and there's the hallmark event is the FLC Awards reception and dinner. So most of you may know that the FLC puts out awards across multiple categories on a national, and there's also regional awards. The national meeting is for the national awards, obviously, and there's a beautiful awards banquet and reception, really to give honor to those tech transfer professionals that have worked so hard throughout the years and created some great innovation and put out and done, amazing things in transferring tech and collaborating with industry to develop some of the technologies that we all use on a daily basis. We put on webinars throughout the years, so always take a look at our events calendar to see if there's something coming up. You can sign up for our newsletter, which goes out on a weekly basis and highlights not only news in tech transfer. We have a column where we actually are analyzing DC perspectives and what's going on in DC and around tech transfer. So that's all new stuff that's coming out on a weekly basis and content that we're driving. Our social media channels are live and very lively, and we actually, we're providing content on a daily basis. So I suggest you follow all of those: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're on it all. We do all of those things and support tech transfer across the board. So here's obviously we want you to connect with us. So it's probably time to take some questions and answers. Hopefully, we have about 10 minutes left in the session. Looks like maybe there's some questions down here that we can answer. So I'll sort of moderate some of these questions out. If I can get that on the screen. Most of the questions, a lot of the questions have been related to the download of the website of the slides. And those will be made available as soon as we're done here. There's a question, do the labs submit technologies to showcase in LabTech in your life, or can companies who have licensed and developed technologies submit them? We currently take the technologies from the labs themselves, but certainly we would encourage if a industry partner wanted to promote a tech that they did transfer it out to go back to the lab to reach through to us. And we would also we'd certainly take that under advisement. If an industry partner wanted to send us, we would go back to the lab and see if we could get approval to post that on the site as well. Either way, we would also have the ability to put that on as a success story. So even if the content doesn't make it into the LabTech in your life home or environment that we're currently working under, we could certainly use that and provide content and promote it. We're always looking to promote anything having to do with tech transfer. There's a question. I'll read it. Was the development of your scraper done in-house, or did you contract it out? The web scraping tool that we use is from Connotate Technologies, and they are the same web scraping tool that Dow Jones and Bloomberg uses. It's a 1,000-point optical recognition algorithm that was built by a few Rutgers professors. We did not build our own tool for this one. Did FLC provide input to NIST return on investment initiative? I'll hand that one over to John.
Yes, we did. And we've been working close with NIST, understanding what they're doing there, and that's just a close relationship with us on them, and that continues to progress. So there's lots of questions here, so I've been trying to answer them as we go. So, and there's more popping up. So, Marc, I'll let you MC.
Yep, we'll keep going here. There are a lot of great stories that are submitted through the FLC Awards. Why doesn't the FLC automatically share those stories on other parts of the website? FLC should repurpose the content. They could add a checkbox to the submission form to give permission to share. We actually have been working on this particular issue, and we are definitely looking to, promote those success stories, and reuse content. That's so thank you for that question. Absolutely something we're working on. From the Doolittle Institute, one of our researchers met another from a different federal lab at a conference and is interested in joint research opportunities. How do they begin this process? Don, it looks like you answered this question. Would you like to give some thoughts on it?
Well, I kind of responded to that. And the question is that a federal employee to a federal employee? And because that's kind of how I read that one. That says one of our researchers. If it's not a federal researcher and a federal researcher, then obviously tech transfer and or a contract becomes the means to do that. If it's fed to fed, though, some agencies have some different protocols. I know when Department of Defense works with like Department of Energy, you kind of have to work through agency-specific things. But if it's in kind, then it becomes a very straightforward kind of a thing. So I don't know if that answered it very well. So if there's more to that, please contact me afterwards.
Yeah, it looks like it was a federal-to-federal meeting.
Marc, I see this question about where does FLC secure funding for FLC, and that's a great question. And I went through that very quick, but per the legislation, FLC collects 0.008 of each agency's R&D budgets. So it's a congressionally mandated tax on all the agencies. And so in the slide deck, you'll actually see who gives what, at least at the macro agency. It doesn't show breakout Army, Navy, Air Force, but shows DOD. But the overall total budget for FLC is around $3.2, $3.3 million per year typically.
Well, there was a question of if Frank Cruz was still involved in the tech locator service. Frank is actually retired. He was a great asset to the organization, and thanks for recognizing Frank. Sarah's actually on the line, and she's been taking over some of that work, and we all help support the tech locator service collectively. I don't see any more new questions coming in. I guess we'll give it another minute here, see if anything else comes in. We're at about 55, 56 minutes in.
Yeah, on that tech locator service, that was a great question from the standpoint of there's a big difference in the tool set that we have now with FLC Business than what we had previous when Frank was kind of on the rolls and he was able to field those questions from a kind of a questionnaire you'd fill out. Between FLC Business as well as the chat service, you know, we're really trying to cover that. But if you do need specific help, I mean, there is a place to fill out that form online as well. And Mark, you can correct me there if I'm misstating that.
No, that's correct.
And there was a question earlier from one of the attendees about can the lab still submit technologies for the LabTech in your life? And I believe that actually closes tomorrow. But if you have a lab that has something that fits in the environment, we do hope you submit it, even if it's putting a placeholder in place until you get maybe the public affairs from the labs to approve it, but getting it in the mill. So definitely want more input there.
It looks like from Doolittle Institute there's no further questions, and we're about out of time. So from the MSO perspective, we'd like to thank everybody for the opportunity. Sorry about the technical glitches. Hopefully you were still able to follow along, and my rambling didn't confuse you too much when we went back to the slides. Thanks to John, and I'll let you close it out.
Well, I just want to offer my thanks as well. And if you heard something or want to further discuss it, when you get the slides or you go onto the website, please don't hesitate to either use the chat feature on the website and or contact me or Mark directly. We kind of like talking about the FLC. We think it's a great, valuable entity that really helps the labs do tech transfer. And as you get into FLC Business and LabTech in your life, we like feedback as well, right? We didn't design this for ourselves. We designed it for you. So feedback is very, very good, including critical feedback. And so with that, I just want to thank Scott for helping set all this up, and Carolyn, and Bill as well there, and just wish you well in all your tech transfer endeavors. So thanks. Take care. Have a good day.